It's a true privilege to be invited to this beautiful and interesting country and this fantastic hall and so many who turned up. But still, I'm a nasty professor. And I will start by putting questions to you. I will start asking you different questions. And you who sit in the front rows, you have got this device where you can use, you just have to use the first three buttons, A, B, or C. Because I will give you three alternatives to each question. First is, what is the life expectancy of the world population? It means a child born today, if everything remains the same, how long will they on average live? 50, 60, or 70 years? Please answer, A, B, or C. Oh, you are fast in Iceland to answer. Perhaps because it's a general public. In universities, they're very slow. They think and think and think. Okay, thank you very much. I stop this one, and we move to the next question. I won't give you the answers until you've answered all my questions. Where do the 7 billion live? Look, I've divided the world into 4 regions of equal size. The Americas, yeah, this I managed, it's an experiment. And it's a prototype. With great difficulty, we have managed to solidify the beam of the laser pointer. It's more Star Wars like this, and it's organic material, so it can be recycled also. This is America, this is Africa, Europe, I added Turkey and Russia, and this is Asia. I included Australia into Asia. Where do the 7 billion live? Do they live like this? 2, 1, 1, 3? Or is it 1, 1, 1, 4? Or is it like this? 1 billion, 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion? Please answer A, B, or C. And if you change your mind, you can press again. The system is so advanced, it will take your last one. And those who are hesitant, I can prove the ethics standard. We will not collect DNA material from these devices. So there will be no individual feedback results. Thank you very much. Stop the polling. We move to the next. Now, when I was born in 1948, we were less than 1 billion children in the world, children being 0 to 15 years old. Then the number of children in the world kept increasing. And at the turn of the century, here around 2000, there were almost 2 billion. Now, one of these 3 lines is the best estimates of the United Nations population divisions, the foremost experts of the world on how many children we can expect there will be by the end of the century. The other 2 lines I made up. They are pure fantasy. So which one is the experts' line? Do the experts say that we have to expect that the number of children continue to increase to about 4 billion? Do they say, no, it will slow down, there will be around 3 billion? Or do they say, no, the number of children in the world will not increase anymore. We will still have 2 billion by the end of the century. A, B, or C? Please answer. I have to close before you have looked up in the smartphones. I think that's about 14, 15 seconds. How many babies are born per woman in the world? It used to be about 6 in historic time. When I was a student, there was about 5 children born per woman in the world. One of the line is correct, the others are fantasies. Is it 4.5? Has it fallen to 3.5? Or has it fallen all the way to 2.5 children today in the world? A, B, or C? This is a number which we know very well. There's no doubt about this number, because counting census is quite easy. Counting income is difficult for people, but census, you go to the house, you knock the door open, kids come out, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's quite easy. What percent of the world's 1-year-old children got vaccinated against measles? Measles being the most important of those basic vaccines that we would like all children to have. But before their second birthday then, what percentage got it? Is it 20%? Is it 50%? Or is it 80% of the world's children? A, B, or C? Sub-Saharan Africa are facing many problems, also some successes. 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, there were 18% of the children in Africa south of Sahara that died before their 5th birthday, child mortality. What has happened? Has it increased like this? Has it remained the same? Or has it fallen like this? A, B, or C? This data we also know quite well. There's a type of survey that tells us this, not routine statistics. In the last 20 years, what has happened to the proportion of people, the percentage of people living in extreme poverty? Extreme poverty being defined as hardly not having enough food for the family. Those of you who read the Bible, Matthew 6:11, our daily bread give us today. So it's an old indicator. Has that proportion, has it almost doubled? Has it remained the same? Or has it fallen to half? What percent of adults in the world today are literate? That means can at least read and write something. Is it 40, 60, or 80%? Men in the world today, men above 25 years of age, they have on average been 8 years to school. How long have women in the world been to school, women of the same age? If men has been 8 years, have women been 7 years, 5 years, or 3 years? It's just about the gender inequity in schooling. A, B, or C? As you can see, we have chosen to have really different answer alternatives. So it's not about the quiz knowing an exact number. It's about order of magnitudes. What percent of the world's energy production come from solar and wind power? Is it 1%, 5%, or 10%? It's not what you would like it to be, but what it is. Thank you very much. So, now I will do something very brave. I will open my PowerPoint. I will click and mark all of them. I go to slideshow, and I hide all slides, and I unhide them. There we are. That's quite brave by a 66-year-old man to do. So, what did you answer on this one? Oh, you had 39% think it's 50. It's all about me. I'm 66 years. If I was the average of the world, would I be dead or alive? Actually, the right answer is this. 70 years. On average, you guessed, if I calculate the average, you estimated 58 years. means that you're roughly 30 years behind time. Huh? In Sweden, they thought this. In Norway, they thought this. See Nordic unity, isn't it nice? And those are web-based surveys done in Sweden and Norway by the most serious web-based companies, Novus in Sweden, who did this. And then they answered like this. And Britain, they answered like this. And United States answered like this. It's not nice to be beaten by those Anglophone countries. It's interesting. Why are we worse off in the Nordic countries? And let me go on and look at this one. This is how you answered here. This is how the Swedes answered. This is how the Norwegian. It's very cute, isn't it? Very, very similar. And then the Americans, of course, they want to be different, you know. And the right answer here is this one. Now, the interesting thing with what you do here is that half of you think that there are twice as many people in Africa as there are. Half of you picked this one, thought it was 2 billion in Africa and 3 billion in Asia. It's 1 billion in Africa and 4 in Asia. People live in Asia. More than half of the world population live in Asia today. It's interesting that this is one of the few questions where the public in the Nordic countries answer ahead of time. What half of you answered will happen, but in 40 years from now. And we can come back and reflect on why you thought it was like that. I divided here in 4 regions, and out of the 7 billion, remember now, 1 in America, 1 in Europe, 1 in Africa, and 4 in Asia. I used to say the pin code of the world, 1114. And in 2050, it's like less than 40 years from now, about 35 years from now, there will be no more in America, no more in Europe. There will be 1 billion more in Asia. And then the fast population growth will be over also in Asia, but there will be twice in Africa. Then you will get what half of you thought there already was. 2 billion there. And the fast population growth of the whole world population will end by the end of this century. Remember I said the fast population growth. There may still be a slow growth, or there may even be a start of a shrinking of world population after 2050. But before that, there will be roughly 1 or more probably 2 billion more in Africa. That's the 11 billion we are evening out on. Now, this is important because if I divide America into North and South and Europe into East and West, I get this what I call the Old West, the old concept of the Western world. And that will be in the future less than 10% of the world population. It will be a very small part. When I grew up, it was 1/3 of the world population. And it was the entire world economy. Now, in the future, it will be 1/10 of the world population and a minor part of world economy. 80% of the world population will live in Asia and Africa. That's where people will live. Atlantic Ocean will lose its importance in world trade, and the main part of world trade will be in the Indian Ocean and the neighboring parts of the Pacific. And if you would like to buy some of you may have money, and you want to invest it long term for grandchildren, I have an advice on real estate. Why don't you buy beachfront property in Somalia? A part of the beach in Somalia. Why do I say that? Well, Florida, if you had bought Florida 150 years ago, some ancestor of you, you would praise that great-great-grandma and grandpa, forever, Oh, how wise they were. They bought Florida when it was cheap, And now we have that, we get so much money renting it, or we sold it, At that time, there were still pirates in the Caribbean. Key West was built to fight the pirates. Fighting the pirates opened Mississippi for world trade, and then it became a holiday resort. There are nice beaches in Somalia, beautiful beaches. And there will be about 9 billion people who want to go to the beach. You sit still. When I lecture to the hedge fund manager, you also speculate. They're not so popular any longer in Iceland, I've heard, But those who really seriously speculate with money, when I tell them this, they take up their smartphones and start texting immediately for someone to check beachfront property in Malta. Is it fantasy? No, it's not. It's not. This is the breakfast table of my dear colleague, Asli Kulana, Associate Professor of Global Health at Karolinska Institute. Her medical degree was in Somalia. She is now a researcher in malaria and HIV at Karolinska Institute. And this is the beachfront property she acquired last year north of Mogadishu. And its prices are rising, she said. You see, we have difficulties looking into the future. Most of you, especially on Iceland, you know when your grandparents were born, but you haven't yet thought on how long your grandchildren will live. They will live to the end of this century. And we have often with a car, when we live in the richest countries, West Europe, North America, because Iceland is still a very rich country, even if you were enormously rich just a few years ago. You're now just rich. And we have, when we drive, we have a huge rear mirror in the car. And we watch how it was before. And the rear mirror is so big, so we don't even can look at the windscreen. We have to do like this to see the windscreen. It's very difficult to look seriously into the future. I don't know that this will happen, but it's quite probable. It's quite probable that it will happen. Somalia now has people and diaspora all across the world. And they are not only, refugees, unemployed. Oh, Operakällan, the best restaurant in Stockholm, is run by a Somali. Very, very successful in this. And they're successful Somali. When they come back to a peaceful Somalia and solar energy, desalt seawater, wow, there will be beaches and hotels. And this, I find that my African colleagues and African politicians of my age, serious, hard-working people, they have this vision. They see this possibility, and that's what motivates their work, Can we trust the numbers? Can we trust population? Well, this is what UN Population Division said in 1958. They said we are now 3 billion, and we will be almost little more than 6 billion we will be by the year 2000. More than 6 billion. And the media in West Europe and North America, they wrote, it's stupid. It was the first time they did this projection to the end of the century and said, everyone understands there cannot be 1.3 billion people in India. They are Muslims and they are Hindus and they are fatalistic and they will fight each other. It will not happen. It's stupid. Why do we fund this sort of people in the United Nations? Now we know the answer. Respect for demography. They were 4% wrong in a 42-year prediction. Have you seen any economist who can predict like that? Have you seen anyone in medicine who can tell you? Have you seen any geologist who can tell you when the earthquakes come? No, but the demographers can do it. They have an amazing ability to do it, And let's see what you answered on this question. Let's see what you answered. Aha, you were quite knowledgeable there. This was better. Sweden was like this, Norway was like this, Britain like this, United States like this. There's a very big talent in this room because this is the right answer. But don't be too happy, because if I had gone to the zoo and asked the chimps, just by pure random they would have 33%. So you still score worse than random, And 1/3 of you think that it will continue like this. The number of children in the world has already stopped increasing. They stopped increasing. This is the peak birth. It's not my data. It's United Nations Population Division's estimate, average estimate. They say it may be a little more, it may be a little less. But this is the most probable. It's the biggest event in the history of mankind that was ever completely missed by media and universities. Why, I can't tell. I'm just surprised. I'm stunned. And I think it is because when it comes to the world, there are so often that we're really not interested in facts. We have emotions. How do you feel about the world? I don't feel anything about the world, I say. I have a lot of feelings in the bedrooms, I said, but in the world is different, I think about the world. And many have ideologies. They say free trade. No, we must have socialist control, this. No, we must have environment. We must have human rights. We have a lot of ideologies which we expose to the world. But really learning what it's all about, that is not so successful. This question, what did you say? Yeah. Here you are up for something. Can I congratulate you? You beat the chimp. But just barely. It's 2.5. And we know this. And it's not communicated. This way you ended up somewhere around 3.4. That's about 22 years back. It's fallen very, very fast, you know. And it's fallen like this. First in Europe. And Europe is now below sub-replacement. Below replacement level. America, baby boom, and then down. And Asia, did Asia fall? It was very high, many were scared, and it's fallen like that. It's fallen like that. Many countries in Asia are now far below 2 children per woman. And Africa, is anything happening to Africa? Yes, it is. And it will continue like this. What we don't know is how fast this will go down. Africa may, with success, fall faster, or with problem, may fall slower. And the other thing we don't know is, where do we end up? Do we end up on 2, or do we end up below 2? This we really don't know. Iceland is a very interesting case. You have an extraordinary high fertility rate. And when you were hit by that sad and terrible crisis, what did you do? Did you go home and cry and drink? No, you made love, you made kids. I think that's the success of Iceland. In that crisis, you put trust in your country, in your institutions, and if not this party make it, I'll vote for another one, we'll make it. While we don't have work, we'll get kids. It's interesting. Russia don't do that. When they have a crisis, oh, at least we won't get kids now. They drop like this. Very interesting. Welfare countries who are well governed, during an economic crisis, fertility rate gets up. And it doesn't fall down. It's quite interesting how that happens. Now, I can show you this in another way, but first I would like to explain the real big balance here. In the past, historically, thousands of years ago, up to 1800, 2 parents got 6 children, and population did not grow because 4 died before growing up to become parents themselves. It was utterly tragic. Human history has been tragic. You are proud of your historic past here in Iceland, but the reason the population grows so slowly was that children kept dying in a very tragic rate in Iceland up to these last 100, 200 years when things changed. And when it changed here with the Industrial Revolution, it was not that population grew because you got more children, it was more survived. This happened in Sweden. Out of 6 children, 4 survived, and about 25% of Swedish population went to Minnesota. And in the whole world, the population grew, and it became 7 billion. That's where we are today. Now, many use a term for this, which I advise you to stop and never ever use again. It's population explosion. Why don't I like that? Think about what it is. Population explosion was coined in the end of the 1960s in America when Paul Ehrlich's book, it was actually Paul and Anna Ehrlich's book, but for strange reason only the male name appeared as author of the book. They said what was correct at that time, world population is growing very fast. And the publisher put the name population bomb on it because it was conceived as Asia throwing bombs back for the nuclear bomb. It was a threat for Asia. Population explosion means that you assume that other people's loved children are terrorist bombs. Stop using it. It's very ill perceived in other continents. It's structural racism. If you want to say it, say fast population growth. Then there is another X word which is used, exponential growth. And many write it in media without knowing what exponential means, growing faster and faster. This was what happened in Iceland before the bubble. Remember the excitement? Faster and faster and faster, and then down. But here what happens, you can see population growth was growing faster and faster to this point. 1968 was the maximum growth rate of the world population. It grew by 2.1% per year. The last, can you see it's linear? Absolutely linear. It's not exponential at all. This means that the growth rate is falling. When a line goes that way, it's like you put money on the bank account. And it increases with 50 crowns per year, 50 crowns per year, 50 crowns per year, 50 crowns per year. That means that the interest rate is falling, doesn't it? Because otherwise it would increase with 50, 51, 53, 56, 60, 64. No, it increased with the same amount every year. Interest rate is falling, and that's what has happened in the world. We are on the way to reach the new balance. This will not happen because we have almost reached the new balance. The new balance means that the young couple decide in the bedroom how many kids they want and how many kids they will have. They've taken control and decision, especially when women can take decision of their reproduction. And they choose how many children they have. Here, death controlled it. Here, love controls it. It's much nicer having love being in charge, isn't it, than death. And many people still, I hear them saying, oh, in the rainforest, people live in ecological balance with nature. No, 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 no. They have an amazing knowledge about nature. Yes, a true knowledge about nature. They take care of nature. Yes. Their human rights should be defended, yes, but they don't live in ecological balance. They die in ecological balance. The reason why there are so few people in the Amazonas and in other rainforests is that children, since thousands of years, are dying in a very sad and extreme rate in those areas. And don't be naive and have these sort of fantasy ideas of a lovely paradise somewhere where children die. There's nothing worse than children dying. People should have funerals in the order they are born. To have to arrange funeral for your own children is the worst that can happen. You don't be romantic about it. And this new situation is very promising. And what will happen is this. Now, how come we will be 4 billion more when the number of children have stopped increasing? That's strange, isn't it? Someone objected, do you think they will come from outer space? Where will they come from, the 4 billion? And this is what I intend to explain for you. I tend to explain for you. I think I'll do that before we take that question. What is happening? Because I have another teaching advice here which is even more advanced. I have it here. Look. This is Swedish cellulosa toilet paper. Each roll is 1 billion people. There are 2 billion children below 15 years of age. There are 2 billion between 15 and 30, almost. Not exactly, but almost, if I round off. There's 1 billion 30 to 45, 1 billion 45 to 60, and then 1 billion 60 and above. Me. This is the world population. Now, why are these missing? This is the composition of the world population today. We have many young, we have few older. Why are they missing? Did they die? No, some died. But mainly there are few here because there were fewer born back then. In the 1940s, when I was born, there were much less women giving birth. The number of women in the world was less. So even if they gave birth to 5 children each on average, the number of kids born were less. Now the number of children have stopped increasing, as I showed you. So I will show you now how the world population can increase with 3 billion without having a greater number of children and without living longer. It's not because they live longer. If they continue to live 75 years, continue to not have more children in the world, still there will be more people. And I will show you why. What happens to this group? Landsläker. Can you tell me what happens to the old people? Please, admit now. Even on Iceland, they die. They die. So, woof, they are gone. The rest of you, you will get 15 years older and you will have children. See, not more children than before. Then the old will die, the rest will grow older, and there will be same amount of children. The old will die, the rest will grow older, and same amount of children, and whoop! Can you see? 3 billion more. Without longer life, without more children. Now I can see many of you don't trust me. But if you have this at home, you can check tonight. You can run it over and over again, and there's no trick of this. There's no magic of this. It's called population momentum, you know. It's very important to realize this. And many people who are truly concerned about the environment, and I share their concern, they say we cannot be more people in the world. I don't share that statement. I think it's an ugly statement because there's no way we can avoid. They're already born. They're already born. And this die, they get older, they have children, they die, they get older, they have children, they die, they get older, they have children. There's no way avoiding these 3 billion. And if you don't want them, what do you propose to do? That's not allowed. That's not allowed. It's not even allowed to propose. And those who propose that we should stay below 9 to 10 billion, they are just ignorant. It's just a way of exposing your ignorance. Will we stop then? Perhaps we will be a little more. I will revive these again, bring them back to life. No, don't be worried. We won't let it happen. There will be 1 billion more because of longer life. This one is because of longer life. This one is just a big fill-up of adults. Breaking distance of a human population is 1 lifetime. From the year you get 2-child family, population continue to increase for 75 years. No way you can stop. China has 1.6 children per woman and population is growing because they are filling up the old. Filling up the old. And this is the main reason. So there's no way we can stop. We shouldn't be obsessed with total population. We have to plan for it. We have to plan for it. Now, are we planning? Are we helping the young children to survive so that parents can trust that their children? We just have to bring it out to all villages and all suburbs in the world. And the governments take care of training of the nurses, their health service pay it, the communities are informed and discussed, and aid helps buying this. Aid works. Development aid works. People start discussing if development aid works and they think that 1 in 5 children are vaccinated. If you don't know what is being achieved, how can you then assess whether it works or not? This is my main problem. We have too much ideological discussion and too little of analysis and true knowledge. And the problem I have, I both love and hate this number. I love it because 83% actually get the vaccines. I hate it because 17% doesn't get the vaccines. We still have that last 1/5 to reach, you know. And what's happening with child mortality? Oh, sorry, it became too small. 48% of you knew that child mortality is falling in Africa. It's much more than this. So you represent a little more knowledge. But it's falling fast in Africa, south of Sahara. Over the last 15 years, the 80s and the beginning of the 90s were bad years in Africa. There were economic problems due to wrong policies of governments. They couldn't control inflation. They didn't allow free market to collaborate with a good government in the right way. And there were HIV and there were resistance against malaria drugs. This has been fixed now. HIV infections rate are coming down. HIV treatment is being rolled out. And today the mothers can read, you know, and then you get much more effective and you have more empowered women today. Child mortality in Africa south of Sahara is today falling as fast as it ever did in West Europe. Listen one more time. Child mortality is falling south of the Sahara. Now, you say, South Sudan, not. It's a tragedy. Central African Republic is a tragedy. Somalia is a tragedy. The Ebola outbreak is a tragedy. It's a real big risk at present. But most of Africa is falling like this. I will show you this in a moment, you know. Here, let me show you this graph. This is my beloved bubble graph I will show you here. Look here. Every bubble is a country. The size of the bubble shows the size of the population. So you have here China. big bubble. And you have, where was Iceland? It might be a small bubble, yeah? There is Iceland. Can you see? There's Iceland. 1964, there was 3.7 children per woman in Iceland, and child mortality was 20 per 1,000. Because the color show the continent where they are positioned. Yellow, Europe; green, America; red, Asia; and blue up there, Africa, south of Sahara. Here, small families, 2 to 3 children per woman. Large families, 6, 7, or 8 children per woman. And on that axis, down there, low child mortality, and up there, high child mortality. Can you see 2 clusters? Very typically. This was, whatever you wanted to call them, industrialized countries, Western world, developed countries, many names for the group that was more advanced, had small families and low mortality. Developing countries, the South, the Third World, whatever you wanted to call it. But it was a big group of countries here from America, Asia, Africa. They had large families and high child mortality. How has the world changed? Has it become any better? This was the year when development aid was introduced. Development aid is not what takes people out of poverty. It's what helps people out of poverty. Development aid can never do the thing. It's people's own work that do the thing. The development aid today is not so impressive in size. It's relatively small compared to what people produce themselves. But it can be a very important help when rightly used. So you would like this one to fall, and you would like family size to fall. So let's see what has happened. I will start the world here. Ready, steady, go. Here we go. 63, 64. Can you see China? China is coming with family planning. They're getting fewer and fewer children. And this is Brazil and Mexico. They don't care about the Pope. They use the condom. They get fewer families. Here is Africa coming now. This is Bangladesh overtaking India down here. And you can see even Pakistan is coming. And look at Ethiopia. It's a completely new world. There's no 2 groups any longer. The whole concept of 2 groups is over. But there are still countries here like Afghanistan, like Congo, Nigeria. It's mainly northern parts of Nigeria, which makes them positioned here. But most are down here. The average is 2.5. Because those who are very high, they are a smaller part of the world population. Many of you rightly know the problem people have. They don't get vaccinated. They have all these problems. They are in extreme poverty. But that's a smaller part of the world population. Most of them made it. This is India, the big bubble. China is there. And now you think, oh, it's the one-child policy. The Communist Party was hard and it worked. 1.67. Is that a surprise to you? No, communists rarely achieve what they want. And especially I found out that their power in the bedroom is small. The Communist Party may have all the power on Tiananmen Square, but in the bedroom there are stronger forces. There are stronger forces. And you can also look at this sort of Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea, even Hong Kong. They have 1 child per woman without any one-child policy. So how come? What sort of forces are operating in Hong Kong? And in Singapore, in Taiwan. I understood that when I was at a banking conference in Hong Kong. I lectured at these strange places. When I'm invited by these voluntary organization and your development agency, Gapminder don't charge any fee. When I'm invited by Goldman Sachs, we charge obscene fees. Obscene fees. And that helped finance our free website, gapminder.org. Is our business model. Now, I was at this place where I charged obscene fees, you know, and you always get nice dinners there. So I sat at the dinner and ended up next to the most successful, one of the most successful young bankers in Hong Kong. And she was just 37 years old. And she told me all about the changing markets in Asia, you know, the financial situation. And she was obviously extremely clever and extremely knowledgeable. And at the dessert, you know, I asked, can I ask a private question? I said, yeah, fine, she said. Very nice person. He said, do you have a family? Oh, no, I never had time for that, she said. I'm working always, she said. But do you want to have a family? And then she got serious. She took a deep breath, looked out of the window and said, yes, I'm thinking about children every day. It's the idea of a husband I can't stand. And this is a dramatic example. I don't base my conclusion on her brilliant summary. All research shows that gender equity does not come automatically of economic development. It doesn't come automatically from social development with education. It's a fight of its own. And you see today, countries in Japan, all the successful countries in Japan, we see good economic development, better and better economic levels, high education level even for women, good working opportunity in the labor market, but gender equity is delayed. If you marry, you're not supposed to divorce, and you should stand back for your husband's career, and even worse, you have to take care of your parents-in-law. And that means that they hesitate. They are very hesitant. Narita, do you know what the Narita divorce is? Narita is the airport in Tokyo. Narita divorce is when the young woman in Japan, after long consideration, has decided to marry in the end. She goes for the honeymoon. After 4 weeks, she comes back. She stands at the carousel. The suitcase comes. She takes the suitcase and she walks off. Japan has the highest divorce rate within a month in the whole world. Because we have to transform societies culturally, which you obviously have done in a very fast way. It's interesting that Iceland never hit down on a low fertility rate. You went from the traditional, rural, traditional value society, and you made some sort of jump into a modern society, which is quite amazing. And you never, Sweden in the 1930s had 1.6, 1.4 children per woman. You were never down there. You went it from large families in the rural areas to relatively high fertility rate in a modern urban society directly. It must just be that your development was quick, or there were some real good fighters among the women on this island, you know, that really made things change simultaneously in many dimensions. Now, so what I'm telling you, this is the drama of the world, where some countries lagging behind. We need more gender equity here, but then if you don't have much gender equity, you know, you will get few children. Look what happens if I look at this one. This is now income per person here and babies per woman there. If I show you this in full size, you can see the richest countries here. You have this, they're coming up. They're getting richer and richer, and you get higher fertility rates here. These are the Asian economies, which I told you about. The other ones is here. And where is Iceland? Can you see Iceland? It must be this one here. Yeah. You are flying high. Bedrooms are happy on this island, even if bank accounts are not so full as they used to be. So if I look at Iceland here, and we go back like this, you made this trip. I'll give you a blow up here. You remember this? But you see, you went back in money without falling fertility rate. That's very special. That's very special. And now you are getting more money, and then fertility rate is slowly going down. Because now you get so obsessed working. So I don't know. I won't go into the details. You know yourself. Now, the thing here is that countries have done amazing. Look at Ethiopia. They were up here 67. 1 child in 4 was dying, and they had 7 children per woman. Population was growing fast, and they made it all the way here. Ethiopia is one of the countries in the world that use aid money best. They really have it. How do I know it? Well, I have the personal accounts from Bill and Melinda Gates. And they are very careful. They are giving away their fortune. They're giving away. They're not giving away the interest of their money. They are giving away the money. $3 to $4 billion a year. And they go visit themselves. And I'm reluctant. Tax-loving Swedish public health professors normally don't say nice things about American billionaires. I really have to be convinced. But the way they do it is quite amazing. And they find Ethiopia, many countries in Africa, actually more and more countries in Africa, really good action. But if I split Ethiopia into its provinces, look at the difference. Addis Ababa is down there. 1.6 children per woman, very low child mortality in the capital. Highly educated women, same reluctancy of getting married now, which you have there. Somali region up there, tragically in civil war, but most of Ethiopia somewhere here in the middle. Now, that was Ethiopia. Now, how much did you do here on poverty? This is what you said. It's almost like a chimpanzee result, isn't it? And this is Sweden, this is Norway, this is Britain, this is America, and this is right. It's falling. The proportion is falling. The numbers are not falling as much because population is growing, and especially the poorest are growing. This is the dilemma. The people in extreme poverty, they are the ones which have 5 children and 4 survive, 1 die. The countries in the world that has the fastest growth of the population today is Afghanistan and Congo. Listen again, those who have the highest child mortality have the highest population growth, because nowhere in this world is death stronger than love. Nowhere. We have soap, basic hygiene, some sort of rights for women, and most girls go to school today. We are out of that extreme misery. It's just that they haven't come into welfare yet. They haven't come into a decent life yet. They need help. But we are going the right direction. Once again, and this we know. This is known. How do you get out of extreme poverty? I make this example here. The worst thing is when you are so poor, so kids have to work. Malala, this brilliant young woman from Pakistan who was attacked. She wasn't attacked when she went to primary school. She was attacked when she almost finished secondary school. And her father was a headmaster, working his whole life for girls going to school. And she was asked by Kim, the head of the World Bank, when she visited the World Bank. He asked her, why doesn't girls go to school? She took a deep breath and answered, because there are so many girls and boys that live in so poor families, so they must work to help feed the family and cannot go to school. And then she took a second deep breath and said, but there are still some places where there are cultural barriers for girls. Out of the 60 million children who are out of primary school, who should be in school, 45% are boys, 55% are girls. It's not a gender issue any longer. It's extreme poverty. It's extreme amount, long away in rural areas. So have we fixed gender equity in the world then? Not at all. It's even worse now. Because imagine when a girl was stopped at the age of 8 and said, you should not go to school, you should stay home, carry water, take care of the goats, we'll marry you off. When she was married off at age 14, she was almost a little happy because the boring life came to an end, something was changing. Now, her daughter have gone to school, and she's 14 years old, and then she's stopped. That's even worse. You get higher depression rate, you have higher sadness among girls now who have gone to primary school and then are stopped from going and take the work they want, going on with higher education, or waiting with marriage, starting a small business, or whatever plans they will have in their life. So gender equity is not solved because girls go to school. It's just that we have to upgrade our knowledge about what's really happening to girls. So they get out of extreme poverty. This woman here, she shows how you do it. You increase productivity of humans. She started a company, Mrs. Tapo. She has acquired a wheelbarrow of steel. She's enjoying the benefit of the Industrial Revolution. And she's higher, but she takes home the water, the girls go to school. This is fertility determinants. It's not one thing, it's several things. Out of poverty, female education, child survival, contraceptives, political commitment, rights and value change. Eventually it's a value change. The men has to be proud of how well their children are doing instead of how many children they have. And this is happening across the world. 80% of the world population live with two-child family as a norm today. We were in Nepal, my wife and I, recently, and we met. Would you like your daughter to continue? No, 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 no. I want my daughter to have a profession and get a paycheck. But I can do this, I know I'm helping my community. And then, this is the midwife, this is the nurse in the birthing center or the small health center where they can give birth. They motivate it. And look over here, they have the gender-based violence group. This was an extremely wise woman. These two women explained for us how they were doing, violence against women, incest, all these terrible sort of problems which exist. Girls going to school is a bad gender equity measurement. It's thought. What's the main cause of death for women 15 to 19 years old in the world? Number one cause of death, 15 to 19 years old. It's suicide. 20 to 24, it's pregnancy related. And 25 to 29, it's HIV. But this crucial age, it's suicide. Because they are stopped there. You have heard about terrible rapes in India. And how brave wasn't the new Prime Minister in India, now Modi, when he in his inaugurational speech said, it's a shame with rapes in my country. We have been sort of protecting girls. That was the wrong way of doing. We have to educate and disciplinize the boys. It's not about stopping girls from going out not to be raped. We have to have a safe life for girls. It's very amazing, this new leader in India, what he's saying. I was sort of hesitant of him today. He surprised the world in many ways and standing up and saying that no one has said before. Things go forward. And what I liked this was that there was a community leader. This man was elected and this was the headmaster in the school. The other was UNICEF and aid organization staff, my wife and me here as visitor. And we spent the whole day there. And I ran the seminar with these women, asking them all the questions what I lecture here. I asked them, why are now women in Nepal having just 2.4 children per woman? There are many reasons, they said. Perhaps the main one is that we are all convinced today that our children should go to schools, boys and girls. And we can't make that if we don't have few. It's not so much that girls have to go to school, women have to go to school to be clever. They can think even if they don't go to school. We have many countries where we can see in Bangladesh, the fertility rate falls among illiterate women because they want their daughters to go to school. The way to solve child marriages among girls is that fewer girls are born, so that those who are born can get a good life and can be taken care of. It's a shame that 50% of African women today who want contraceptives don't get them. We have enough gender seminars. We need service provision. It's ironic to run too much NGO, civil society things if they can't get the pill. And also to change the idea, family planning is not to have less children. It's to have more sex. Yeah, many don't want to say it, How do you keep a couple together? You have good sex together, Truly good sex, voluntary, wanted and longed for among both parties. That makes strong families. That makes kids being taken care of parents who love each other. And they want the kids they get. That can be solved, but we need. And it's an embarrassment for us in the Nordic countries that it takes a Catholic billionaire from the United States to alert us that we have to continue to provide contraceptives. Honor to Melinda Gates who does this. It's really, really important that this is being done. So already today, the number of children is not increasing. It's the adults that increase like this. I showed you this. And women are getting out of poverty, but they want to get away from poverty. It's not just getting out of that poverty, having gone to school. They want away from it. They want a nice life. And this woman in Malawi, that is part of the research. I spent about 20 years doing field surveys among small-scale female farmers in remote parts of Africa. She summarized it. School was #1, she said. They can't cheat me now when I go to the market to sell my product. Health is fantastic, you know. Thank you for the school books from aid. Thank you for the mosquito net. But thank you, government, for training the nurse and training the teacher and paying their salaries. And I love asphalt roads. Thank you, World Bank, for the credit paying for the road. We poor people love asphalt because we can go further with our products. My rights are important because my good husband works in the city to earn money for us to build a better house. So I'm alone, and then rights. Theft is dangerous, you know. Violence again is a danger. I must have my rights in my village, you know. Cell phones are wonderful. Because now we know in the village the prices of the products, you know. And agrotechnology, wow, if we get better seeds, better planting material, you know. Credits are nice. I could buy this bicycle, me and my husband, because we got microcredits from a program. And now we can pay it back because I sell my products. Can you see? She loves it all. But when we discuss development aid, we pick one of them, which is what we love. We work in the bank, give microcredit, the rest will work. No, human rights. Your only room, if you solve human rights, everything is solved. No, you're an engineer. Give them cell phones, you know. No, I'm to the left. I want health service for everyone. No, I'm from the Liberal Party. I want education for everyone, you know. We pick what fits our ideology, but they want it all. And when you have one, it potentiates the other. If she can read and write, she can make use of the cell phone and the health information, you know. If she has better planting material, she will earn more, you know. If she have the credit, she can bring that crop to the market. It potentiates itself, and she can need the market. If she doesn't have the market, she won't grow. She will bring her family out and away from poverty. Aid can just help her to do it, but really she doesn't want to be a small-scale farmer. Iceland people don't want to be farmers. You all live here. No. Most of you live here in Reykjavik and do a lot of interesting things, you know. And some are farmers just. She wants to have a job. Come invest in my country, she says. Come and make a textile factory I can work. I want a paycheck. That's much better, you know. And this is really, and she has the dream, fertilizer and electricity. I was the most organic people in this world, she said. I couldn't afford pesticides or fertilizer. Now I want them because they increase my productivity. And solar energy is not enough. Because solar energy cannot mill my seeds. Because it takes much more energy in shorter time. You need so many batteries. Solar energy cannot sterilize equipment for a cesarean section. Why the heck do we want the poorest people to use solar energy just when the rest of the world doesn't use it so much? So how many can read and write? 80% can read and write. Men went 8 years to school. How long did women go to school? Sorry, 7 years. You see the idea, you have the idea that women haven't gone to school. They have, almost the same as men. This is a very sad fact. It means that there is an attitude to women in the world that they are like victims and they haven't gone to school. They take every opportunity. You can't imagine how the young girls are planning how they could get to school. And they've been planning. This was 70 years ago it was like this. And since then their mothers are supporting. There are women groups supporting. There are activists all around the world. And activists works. But the activists themselves think that they haven't had the impact. I think when it comes to poverty in the world, we don't celebrate success. We have to celebrate success. There's still many problems. As Malala said, there are still places where there are culture barriers for girls, but most of the girls go to school, and when they don't go to school, it's mainly due to extreme poverty, not that their parents don't want them to go to school. We have to upgrade our understanding of the world, you know. Now this is how it will work the fill-up will work on countries. This is Europe, all the age groups, as I showed there. This is America, lacking some retired people. This is Africa, south of Sahara, already as many below 15 years of age as in the entire Europe and America together. This is Asia. The number of children have stopped growing. You remember the line fell down. I will show you the fill up again, what will happen with population. This will happen. They all die, the rest grow older. They have their children, they all die, the rest grow older. They have their children, they all die. It's not so difficult, you know. They get older, they have their children, they all die, they get older, they get their children. 2085, fill up of adults. Some will live longer. And actually, if I would be kind here, there is one chance you will get 1 billion more because you live longer. And sorry, but I want to belong to that group. Then I can follow statistics for 15 years more. And this is about extreme poverty and gender inequity. If Asia get more gender equity, they will get more children now, many parts of Asia. Remember that. So what about income? The income distribution in the world, the money in the world, looks like this. $1 a day, $10 a day, $100 a day. The most difficult is to understand the difference in income, that it varies 100-fold. Often we can understand what it is to live on 1/10 of our income, but we can't understand what it is to live on 1/100 of an income. You can try next week. Take next month, take away 99% of your income and live on the remaining 1%. You will get potatoes and some herring, that's it. You know? This was the world in 1968. There was one hump here, mainly Europe and America, a little of Asia, Japan and Australia. And then there was a big hump here of Africa and mainly Asia, of poor people. It was the camel world with 2 humps. What happened here was, as population grow, income also grow. And there we are today. Can you see? The camel died. It's a dromedary world, just 1 hump today. Most people are in the middle. Most people are in the middle. And I can show that also in this way here. I can show that in this way here. There I am. There I am. 1800, all countries were down here, less than 40 years life expectancy, low income. The leading countries was United Kingdom, Netherlands, and United States, the main slave traders. Very few people tell that. It wasn't slave trade who made them that richer, but it was important to understand that they used that. This is what happened. The rich countries first got rich, and then they got healthy. Here we are through Second World War, and there I was born. And when I was born, still most people were down in this corner. China, India, Pakistan, Nigeria, you know, Egypt, you know, Sudan. Brazil was a little better off. And then this happened. These countries got healthy first. Can you see? And there Mao Zedong died. And Deng Xiaoping said, let's go for the money. And then, wow, China made it to there. That's why they went from camel world to dromedary world. They're already here. And in this new world, there are countries all the way. Can you see? There's no developing world here in between. There are countries all the way here. And is Iceland now very poor? Has it fallen down? Not too bad. You're there just in the middle of this rich group up here, just in the middle of it. You used to be in the top, you know, and we all envy Norway there and Luxembourg, isn't it? But sorry, they have special conditions. We can't make it to there. So in trying to sum this up, this is the world, the income distribution. I put 7 billion people. How do they live? Well, this is the income they have. Can you see? It's 6 doublings. It's about doubling. The world is logarithmic. You double, you double, you double, you double. It'll take a long time. This one have fire. They don't have electricity. This one have electricity. They have a lamp. This one have a refrigerator and a washing machine, and they have all sorts of things, necessary but mainly unnecessary things. And they fly on holiday. They have a bicycle. They have a motorbike. Now, how much energy did we have in the world? This is what you thought? Yeah, it was a quite typical answer which we have. The correct is this one. Majority of you knew it. Solar energy is still very small. If the whole world uses 1%, why should the poorest country use it to 100% or 80%? This won't work. This is how the fossil fuel is distributed in the world. Oil, coal and gas. There's some nuclear, there's some bio and hydro, including your fantastic geothermal, which you have. And then comes solar and wind. One shouldn't make joke about it because solar has a true potential. It's really the big hope, but it's still not economically competitive. It's still not economically competitive. It can add the little energy to another system where you based it on coal or whatever it is. Now, who used the fossil? That's what I would like to end to show you. The richest billion use half of it. The second richest billion, we are now in China, in Turkey, in Brazil, they use half of what's left. The third richest billion, we are now in Indonesia, we are in Peru, we are in Argentina. They use half of what's left. And the rest use half of what's left. This is how the world is. It's becoming increasingly unjust when it comes to resources. So it's not the developing world that will use more energy. It's number 2 and number 3. And my students in Sweden, they say, oh, the developing world cannot live like us. That would never work. That will destroy the planet. And then they add, all Chinese cannot have a car. And this was in the 1990s. Now, why can't the Chinese have cars if we can have? No, all Chinese cannot have a car. And they heard it in Beijing. You know what they did? They bought Volvo. And that was problem-based learning for the Swedes. What? Chinese flag in Gothenburg, And everyone understood. The mayor of Gothenburg just booked a ticket to go to China on holiday, This is the problem. That this and this are told by those ones that they can't live like them. And they ask, what the hell can't we live like you? And then you say, oh, the developing world, we should have climate aid. I don't understand what climate aid is. These people, if they double their use, they have 2 more kerosene lamps, They get little kerosene refrigerator. It doesn't make any difference because, and climate change, the risk of climate change is about the next 2 to 4 decades. It's not about the poorest people. It doesn't matter that we become a little more people there. This is not the issue. The issue is that the richest billion have to use resources in a way that can be shared by 10 to 11 billion by the end of this century. I'm not downgrading the problem, I'm upgrading the problem. But I'm placing it where it belongs, in the richer end of the world. You should imagine what do people, young students in India, clever young students in India, politicians in China, business people in South Africa. They hate the combination of arrogance and ignorance in the richest end of the world. Who say that you cannot live like us. Of course we can. If you can, we can. Haven't you read the Bible, they say? It says us all are equal. It's a very strange idea. It's a very strange idea about this. And I'm not downgrading the environmental problem. I'm not downgrading the climate problem. A member of the Swedish Academy of Science who initiated the climate panel, but we have to see where the problem is. We really have to do something in the richest end there. This is 7 million children who die every year. They die here. You see? But the children die, they don't use any fossil fuel. Burning fossil fuel saved the lives of children. Burning fossil fuel has been the basis for the economic growth, and I love money because I'm a public health professor. I love money, but just as a mean of investing socially and in health service. Money is not the aim, it's the mean, it's the way in which we can have a better life in so many ways. We can get water to the house, we can get lights to the house, we can get refrigerators, we can get washing machines, This is really important. So that's more or less where we are. We have 2-child families all over the world. It's those 2-child families that will increase the consumption of goods. The 5-child families who live in remote parts of rural Africa, they cause problem for the rest in another way. They are safe havens for Boko Haram, From there originate the Ebola virus outbreak. Very tragic. We have to do away with that. And that is not where the environmental problem is coming. We have a really different world. And this is how the world will change. I jump that one because I want to show you photos in the end. You've seen too much numbers now. And I want to honor George W. Bush. It's a surprise, isn't it? Swedish public health professor normally does not honor George W. Bush. But I know if I do that, you will remember it. On the 15th of November, he called for a meeting of the G20 world because the economy has gone way down. He hasn't managed the economy. That was the biggest action against climate change ever done by an American president. Unfortunately, in a very tragic way, by destroying the economy. And he took down the carbon dioxide emission. Then he didn't have any money, so he invited the G20, not the G7. Because Merkel didn't have money, Brown didn't have money, he had to invite the G20. And this is the official photo from that meeting. And they have asked people to come to lend him money. And you have to be very polite. And Americans are, if you have been in America, you know they are great hospitality. They are very nice. He put up a map of the world. He put up too many continents, Often. But it's just American hospitality. And then they negotiated who should stand where. And I will zoom in here. And you can see now what's interesting. They have a mark. This is this is Bush mark. This is Jintao's mark. But he moved away from his mark. Can you see? And what Bush is doing, what I like so much with Bush, can you see? He's leaning. He's rubbing shoulder with the socialists from Latin America, with Lula. And who was it then that saved the American economy? Of course, it was the one who stand closest to Bush on this figure. They lended most money. Who was the one who saved the Western economy? It was a socialist, a communist, and 2 Muslims. This is the new world. This is the new world, the world coming. Also, the economy is now moving out of the Old West. Half the economy is already outside the Old West, and it will be even more. And look at Sarkozy over there. Look how sad he is. Why should La France be on this side of the Muslim and the communist, He's very sad. This is strange. It's no longer a West-focused world. And we have to deal with this world. And they don't need aid because they are emerging middle-income countries. They don't need it. These are the other countries. Gapminder try to help you to upgrade your worldview. We are free on the net. You can look at Gapminder School, Dollar Street. We have the Ignorance Project we are running. And remember, it's not so difficult. If Bush did it, all can do it. Thank you very much.